G, Section 3, involving an imminent lawsuit regarding Club 106. Second. Thank you. Do we need to have a roll call or? Okay.
Hold on. Mr. Villamagnum.
Aye.
Mr. Davis. Mr. DiLoretto.
Aye.
Mr. Johnson.
Aye.
Mr. Metcalf.
Aye.
They don't have a quorum.
Make sure we get that on there in case someone,
Yeah, they have four.
thank you. Okay.
Okay.
Everybody out.
Except for you.
I don't know what happened, but I
Okay. We're going to deviate a little bit and go, Mr. Johnson brought some things up that he had by virtue of searching the website, and he's got some pretty good articles here. Mike, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, it's come to my attention that our criminal nuisance ordinance that we passed a year or so ago may not be, may have a loophole in that it doesn't address the Fort Steubenville hotel apartments, where you can interpret it that we have to go to apartment C 3, 4, 5 times. So I looked around Cincinnati, a suburb of Cincinnati, North College Hill. They have a criminal nuisance ordinance, and it has provisions where if a premise has 2 or 3 units, maybe it might be 6 trips. And it goes, the more units you have, the more trips you have to make before our nuisance ordinance would kick in. So I'd like to see us maybe modify or look into recommendations to modify our criminal nuisance ordinance to address situations like the Fort Steubenville Hotel, where I believe we've had hundreds of calls down there. We've also had a lot of calls in drug activity at another building. Any building that has multiple units, we need to address. Now, the whole purpose of these criminal nuisances is not to raise money. It is to have the property owner get involved and clean the place up. And that's what we want. And if they don't want to help, then we will get them with citations and fines. And maybe once they start hitting their pocketbook, I mean, Cincinnati, if you look at the ordinance, they'll fine you up to $10,000 once you get past 6 trips. I mean, ours is only 1,000. I'm not advocating to go to 10,000. Just I mentioned that to show that some cities are real serious. And in South Euclid, who we kind of modeled ours after, I mean, they collected like $75,000 in criminal nuisance fees last year, or they projected to collect that this year.
You know what I did? Like I texted the person, the author of that story, because she said they were expecting. I want to see how much they did collect.
Right,
What
that's
they
what
actually did, yeah.
Sarah Dorn?
Yeah, Sarah Dorn.
Yeah.
So I got an email out to her, so hopefully she can get back to me.
So there's that. I want to think about maybe amending our criminal nuisance ordinance. And then there's another program that Dayton, Ohio has, and it's been adopted by Trotwood, Ohio. And they have what's called a drug use nuisance abatement program, where it's a program that they were taken to court in Montgomery County, backed up to the city of Dayton. I gave everybody basically frequently asked questions to give you an idea what the program is. But it gives we would set up a commission, basically, and the police would have the power to, deem that place a nuisance. You have a hearing. You could say that person, Willie, can't go to that place, live in that place. If there's no help at all from the property owner, we could shut the place down. And all these criminal nuisances, they still rely on the Ohio Revised Code, which has a nuisance ordinance, or not ordinance, a nuisance law. And Cincinnati specifically states we still will follow that also. So these are all just designed to try to attack our drug problems. It has quieted down a little bit, but we want to be proactive, not reactive. We want to stay after them. And I think there is a loophole in that criminal nuisance, and I think it could be stronger and we could be more effective.
Keep our foot to the pedal, keep it going. While we, like you said, we are kind of slow right now. Yes, Sean?
Mike, does that pertain also to the federal housing projects?
In my opinion, it would. So, I mean, if JMHA has a building, we got 100 calls down there, we're gonna find them also.
Last year, I think 5% of our police calls were in housing projects.
Don't you think it would apply to them also, Gary?
If,
Put it in there.
like on the, like where they have 15,
Units,
loud noises, disorderly conduct, so like if there's calls that are coming out of that place that fit the definitions of an ordinance, sure. And then, and what I like what you proposed, because some of their units, there's only, down on the south end, there's maybe
Right.
like 6 or 7 in one unit, so the calls would be different than their bigger units.
And just to give a little bit of background on the multiple unit ones, Cincinnati had it, of course, everybody gets sued, right? So Cincinnati got sued. And they went to court, and they reached a settlement with the Downtown Partners Association, who owned the building. And out of that came the Cincinnati ordinance, which I emailed to everybody. So the Dayton program held up in court. The Cincinnati program has been a result of a court action. So it's definitely an area I think we need to pursue to, like Willie said, keep our foot to the pedal. And, if the property owners, people that own these multi-units, if they put the effort in, none of this will ever apply to them. The effort could include better screening techniques. When there is a problem, they can fix the person. They go after them. They report the problem to us. We're just trying to give another tool for us.
Mr. Chairman, I might suggest that our law director and police chief review we've had about a year under our belt, maybe a little more, with the criminal innocence ordinance that we passed in 2014. Review it, see what's worked, see what hasn't worked, and then review the suggestions that Councilman Johnson has proposed, specifically at Cincinnati and Dayton, with examples, Trotwood and North College.
North College,
yes. And see where those might strengthen our, those ordinances, strengthen ours. Also maybe call them, reach out, talk to them. I think it's important for us to have a dialogue with these folks and not only figure out what's worked, but maybe if they had to do over again, what would they do a little differently? Kind of learn from it. And I'd like to at least present our progress, hopefully significant, at the next safety committee meeting next month.
I would like that. I was going to suggest that tonight. Thank you for bringing that up. And even on the Cincinnati one, getting back to I printed it off, and they have anywhere from 2 to 3 residents all the way up to over 200 residents. And it's according to each one. If you have 2 to 3, it's like 6 nuisance activities. All the way up to 200, you would have to have close to 30 nuisance activities within a 1-year period. So that would be, and I like that. It lets you.
Yeah, and I appreciate Mike bringing up, like Trotwood and North College. We want to make certain, I'm not certain we can just take what Cincinnati does and
Right, I understand that.
But we can make it work for us. That's what we need. I think that's our challenge, to be a little bit more strategic and creative.
Right.
How would it work for us, given whatever capacity we have to make it a success?
I agree.
So, you do that.
Thank you. Thank you for wanting to do this way. Any other questions for Tim, Mike, or Mayor? Nothing? Okay, now you want us to continue on, Mr. Bolin, to number 3 now?
We could. I think number 3 and number 4 involve our health commissioner and our fire chief. Shalita, could you give us an update on the community health assessment, please?
Yeah, after my presentation, I have one at Eastern Gateway as well. I have actually met with Trinity, the hospital, and we're actually planning a meeting with a couple different communities in Steubenville and within Jefferson County to focus on the deficiencies we have in the city. So we're going to focus on the programming that each organization holds, and we're going to try to figure out a better marketing strategy for those programs to figure out what people are lacking, because as we all know, perception is reality. So we're really trying to increase the marketing of the programs that are offered in our community, and then from there, we're going to look at some of the deficiencies that we have, and we're going to work together to better and hopefully get our numbers up. Did you get the rankings that I gave?
Yeah.
Frankie? Okay, good. So one of the things that, like we said, is lacking from our cities, like Delaware, which is one of the top 10, I think it's top 5 actually. It's a lot larger, you know, a lot more money, things of that nature. Social economic status is a lot higher, so we have to take that into consideration. But we are working very actively. We had a 2-hour meeting. It was very productive, so I'm really excited to see what comes out of it. And then emergency planning. Yeah.
With our, in our review of the health department, that's still scheduled for summer?
Yes,
This year?
we already had our first set of meetings. It was 2 full days, basically. Our last 2 set of meetings are in January. Everything is going according to plan. We communicate weekly, send each other information. The first meeting was very, very successful. There was a lot of things that came out of the meeting that's going to have to be addressed. I've asked Gary, the city manager, and our finance director to attend the next set of meetings, because we're going to talk about finance and legal issues that we're going to have. So as I have more information, I will continue to bring it back. So every month I will give you an update.
Actually, I think, Mr. Chairman, we have the emergency preparedness plan.
I'll set this here so I can look at you while I'm looking at it. We've been working pretty much for the last 7 months, rewriting our City of Steubenville emergency operations plan. It's the plan that guides large-scale emergency operations in the city. We have the final copy. The rewrite is done. Basically, we did it in a functional annex type style. We have the introductory section. We have check sheets on different types of emergencies. We have severe weather, disease outbreaks, chemical spills, water emergencies. Then you have a basic plan that outlines just a general emergency preparedness plan. It has hazard analysis, sample emergency proclamation, after action reports, and a glossary. Then you go into the functional annexes, which cover the different functions of the city departments. What we're doing now is we're just proofreading it. It is done. We're proofreading it, and then we're going to get official bound copies that we'll give to everyone. I'm hoping by the next Sunshine meeting to have those copies, and we can, because we'll basically adopt it. The old one we adopted, it's in place, and all we'll basically do is we'll adopt this one and take the place of the old one. So that should happen at the next Sunshine meeting, and I'll have the official bound copies. But we've done a lot of work on this, myself, Chief, Shalita, and all the other department heads. We've had workshops. Like I said, right now, we're just proofreading it. We're proofreading it to make sure that the bound copies are going to be 100% accurate. So, like I said, it's done, it's ready to go, and basically it'll go through 3 readings, and then it'll replace the old one. So.
I would just say that, I can't say I've read every single page.
No,
I have seen it, I have reviewed most of it and working my way through it. But I can tell you, Council, I'm pleased to report that it is significantly, I'm not going to say better than the plan we had, but significantly more, there's much more there. It's much more in depth. It's just a lot of good information. And I think, while it's very lengthy plan, when there are a particular or specific type of emergency, you can get to that very easily in the document. So it's user friendly, if that's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, I would encourage the chief and Shalita to put this out to council.
Okay.
I know we're gonna find copies, a PDF might be good as well.
I will ask him for that, yeah. He sent everything to me on what is it, a zip drive or zip file? So I can probably get those out.
That might be the best way to get it to council.
Yeah.
For their ability, but we do want to adopt it, and I think in the interim between this sunshine meeting and the next, we'll get those copies to you, and sunshine it, and hopefully adopt it in due course after that.
Yes, and as you were saying, it is lengthy, and just because we adopt this in however many weeks, it doesn't mean the work on it's over, because pretty much for most of next year, the safety committee will be going over this with all the departments. We'll have to pretty much get a feeling for how it works, because you can't just set it on your shelf and say, oh, go get the book. So no, you got to get into it, you got to work with it, but now we have something that we can actually go through and train off of too.
Our consultants were very complete. They talked to each of the departments numerous times, myself as well, and again, I think council would be pleased with the final product. There's probably no more important document we can have than this for our community and for safety. And I think we've taken a major step forward.
And it also references all the other documents that are related. It links to the county plan, it links to the state plan, it links to the national plan. So everything, it now falls in line with all those. It's, like you said, a more complete document now. So, thank you. That's all I got.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody back there.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
if I could just add that the document that was prepared was very time consuming, and I want to commend the different divisions and departments, especially the health and fire department, in preparing this along with our consultants. The plan's only going to be as good as if we need to implement it. And the education on the level of our department heads and the participation of city employees. However, we do have other, as the chief pointed out, the county, the state, other partners within this plan that we might need to rely on. But more importantly, we need to rely on our citizens and our community, because at one point in time, if we have to implement any of these stages, for example, when we had the oil spill in the Ohio River, we basically shut down our community and our citizens were responsible. So I might ask that maybe in 2016, once we have our departments and everybody comfortable with the plan, that we do an outreach, maybe a public meeting at Eastern Gateway or somewhere, to have a seminar on educating our public on what they can do for these emergencies, and let them have an update of our plan and what was involved. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome, Mayor. Any other questions on the emergency preparedness plan? With that, no? Okay. Number 5, Chief McCaffrey, crime statistics.
Yeah, you should have that in front of you. Year-to-date, 14 to December 1st, today, 15. As you can see, the calls for service are way up. We're almost at 14,000 compared to 12,800 in the prior year. Murders are the same, 1 as last year. Rapes, there's 2 less than last year. Burglaries are probably 5 less than last year. Robberies, say 13 to 31. So those are down. The thefts, detectives brought this to my attention. As you can see, there's a big spike in the thefts. Certain people have come up with a, I don't know what you call it, a gimmick or what, where they have their friends steal their stuff. Okay? Their friends steal their stuff, take it to the pawn shop. Then, Bill McCaffrey, I come down to the police station, they stole my ring. So then I go to the pawn shop and I call down the police station, my ring's out of the pawn shop. Well, you get your ring back. And at least 88 cases this. So that would account for a lot of the spike in the thefts. So we're working on how to handle that. Thefts from auto, that's where your car gets broken into, say 43 to 70, it's down. Stolen vehicles, 17 to 7. Like I said, as you can remember last year, we had that, I think there was 6 in one weekend, one guy stole 6 vehicles, so.
Would you say one guy stole 6 vehicles?
Yeah, he had a crime spree, he started here.
Pawn shop.
Yeah, he stole, I think, did he steal one of our vehicles?
They had the van, he stole the white van.
Yeah.
The Monterey part was
Yeah.
last
Yeah.
24th summer.
Yeah. And then,
No more spikes. No,
the shots fired calls are actually down this time from last year, but the actual shots fired calls are, say, 45 to 28. So the actual shots fired calls are up, but the reported shots fired calls are about the same. The arrest charges, there's slightly less people arrested, but there's slightly more charges, so you can just look at that and take what you want from it. It's just people are getting multiple charges because they're committing multiple crimes. And then the arson, we had 2 this year. We didn't have any in the past 2 years. Any questions on that? And then the other thing I had, and this is always going to be a month behind because Sergeant Cook is busy, but I put in there the K9, 6 K9 sniffs, 3 on a vehicle, 3 other, that's on cars and lockers at Catholic Central, Indian Creek, and JBS. K9 alerts, 4. Outside agency assist, that's 3. Turn assist, that's where the turn officers call Sergeant Cook from the K9 to one of their stops is 18. Article searches is 1. Area searches is 1. Traffic stops 15. 10 citations, 5 warnings, 2 misdemeanor citations, 23 searches, 11 seizures, 1 heroin, 2 marijuana, 2 prescription, 3 paraphernalia, 1 crack, and 2 firearms. Western Bowling K9 unit is 5, 2 Terry stops, and PR events. So I'll have my report. But this is from October, so it's always going to be a month behind.
Yes, sir, Mr. Loretta.
Chief, it seems like your call for services are way up, but overall, but the crime's down. How does that go?
Well, I mean,
I've been called with a crime day.
police do a lot more in the city
Right, I
than
understand.
just arrest people. I think I've said this before, we've been called out to light elderly's hot water tanks,
It's all right.
catch bats, you know,
The dogs that I catch vehicles.
barking dogs, just anything.
Okay.
So,
No criminal offense.
yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the chief?
On that, we send the nice check reports out, that the council be getting those. Any comment, chief, on those? They are.
One question on that, I guess, Chief, was, I meant to ask you, was, are we planning another thing?
Yeah.
I figured one was coming.
Okay. 6, the Hilltop Neighborhood Safety Plan. Mr. Petrozzi, Chris, you have, you present us with something here.
Yes, a couple of items that I wanted to go over and update council. First is the residential streetscape character study. I've distributed a copy of everyone. The copy that I distributed the last, a few meetings ago was about 70% complete. This new draft is about 95% complete. Please review this and let me know any comments you might have. I'd like to call your attention to some of the highlights and basically give you some background very quickly. We asked the consultant to look at the right-of-ways on the Bell and Pleasant Heights and look at some typical streets and identify what the deficiencies were within those right-of-ways. It could have been anything from missing signs to broken curbs to deteriorated sidewalks, and then develop a recommendation and a cost estimate for making improvements within those right-of-ways. Typically, where you have significant right-of-way improvements, you also see increases in property values. So that's a very much of interest to us regarding this. If you'll go to, again, the first part of the report is background information. It discusses the streets, talks about the typical streets that they were asked to look at. This was Maryland Avenue on Bay Bell, and then Rossmore and Oakmont Avenue on Pleasant Heights. Again, just asked to look at typical streets within those two neighborhoods. I'll turn to page 16. 16 provides recommendations for proposed a diagram of proposed streetscape improvements. It includes new streetlights, and I'll talk about this, how the those streetlights can be accomplished here in a minute. And it's similar to the way that I mentioned it when we talked about streetlights before in conjunction with AEP. One of the things they did identify, in addition to improving curbs and sidewalks as well as intersections, is moving the sidewalk is because of how narrow the tree lawns are on the hilltop. In many cases, they're much too narrow for the street trees that are there. However, street trees are an important component of any residential neighborhood. What they recommend doing is actually moving the sidewalk to the curb, so eliminating the tree lawn, and then planting those street trees still within the right-of-way, but behind the sidewalk. New traffic signs are recommended, and street signs, as well as improving intersections. Specifically, enhancing the crosswalks, calling those crosswalks out, marking them, and identifying them, and improving the appearance of the intersections. Next page identifies some typical street trees that are recommended. And then if you turn to page 19, 19 looks at the a street light that is recommended. The way street lights would be, we envision street lights being provided on the hilltops is through AEP. AEP has a program where they will provide the lights. They provide the actual poles. They maintain all the lights. However, the city is responsible for getting power to the lights. So in conjunction with any sidewalk replacement program that would eventually occur, underground conduit would have to be installed that would supply power to the lights. And then, again, AEP will be responsible for maintaining those lights. Again, lighting is important for safety and is an important part of any residential area. And we've identified a lack of lighting on many of the streets up there as a problem. It goes on to identify furnishings like refuse containers. If you'll turn to page 29 where we look at cost, you can see the cost with regard to the typical streets that we asked the consultants to look at. On page 29, it looks at Maryland Avenue from Bellevue Boulevard to McDowell, with a total cost of $705,000 for the entire street. That's about roughly $141,000 per block. to include everything from new street lights, the new street lights as well as the sidewalks, etc. Then if we go on to the next 2 pages, it looks at the other streets I mentioned, the other 2 being on Pleasant Heights, Rossville, and Cardinal, Eclair, and then Oakmont from Parkville to Jefferson. Rossville being $378,000, and Oakmont being $462,000. Not inexpensive, but one of the things that we need to look at are resources and how we can fund these types of activities. Again, I think that enhancing the right-of-ways, improving those right-of-ways, and we can all envision areas of the hilltop where we've seen bad sidewalks, missing street signs, missing features of any kind. And then you can envision what it would look like if all that was provided, new street trees, enhanced intersections, and how that would improve the area. So one of the things we have to look at now is how to pay for those types of improvements.
Yes, sir.
Just a couple comments, and I first of all want to point out Chris's efforts on this have been tremendous, and I'm glad he added or included 5 pages of funding sources. If you had a few more pages, that would be good, but at least there are, I think the good news is there are funding sources that we just need to obviously pursue, and this is moderate to long term. It can't be accomplished overnight. I think in many ways it's kind of similar, Mike, to the broken window policy. If we can do, we need to do all these things strategically. If our neighborhoods have streets that are falling apart, or sidewalks and curbs and no trees, it's all part of the same. We're not going to get to where we need to be unless we address the public right of way, as we can afford it. So, as Chris said, it's about 95% done. He and I are going to talk a little bit. I had a couple questions for him that I need a little more clarification on, but then when we get it in that final state, we'll bring it back to council, maybe at next month's meeting, I would imagine, Chris, and ask council for any additional questions or concerns it may have, and then hopefully we adopt this as our plan for the hilltop neighborhoods. I would imagine, Chris, we would want to have some presentations or even more outreach to those neighborhoods. Can you touch base on that?
At the last Hilltop Task Force meeting, I went over the plan in much more detail and asked them to review it, and at the next meeting we discuss any revisions or any comments on that.
Thank you. Put a lot of time and effort into this, Chris. Thanks for around. Appreciate it. Any other questions for Chris on this?
One more thing under the strategic plan is we did open bids for all the demolitions, and those bids are currently under review right now. There were a lot of bids, a lot of properties that could take some time to review them, but we did open the bids and it's currently under review.
All right, thank you.
One question for you, Chris. I noticed there's a lot of signs that popped up all over. There's a houses, we buy houses, city income tax, prepared, call this number. They're like on city right away. They're on a lot of places.
So if they're in right of ways, as our people encounter them, they'll remove them.
I just noticed it. I got a call on the one about the tax. It's on private property, on private roads. But then I got a call, it says buying homes. It's at the corner of Buena Vista and John Scott Highway, and also on John Scott Highway down by Lowe's. There's another one down there.
Yes, if you let us us know the locations.
I'll give it to you, I'll call you, I'll call you. But they're not allowed. Yeah.
Those types of signs are not from the corner, but we'll look at them.
Okay, I'll get that location.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. Moving along to number 7, item number 7, Neighborhood and Community Parent Initiatives. Mr. Petrozzi, Officer Scott, and Mr. Baird. Anyone want to go first? Officer Scott. Nice to see you tonight.
Good to be seen.
A couple things. You have the continued proactive neighborhood cleanup and the downtown business cleanup papers in front of you. I won't read, I'm not going to read everything there just for brevity. But basically, since we started the program, we've identified in the hilltop areas over 184 building violations and a combined total of 186 weed litter violations. We also began last month, if you remember from my last report, that we started trying to track how many abandoned cars were taken out of the area. We've been seeing a lot of abandoned cars on the property, so we've removed at least 8 of those thus far. I'm going to go back to my records and find out how many we also took out during the time we've been doing this, so a more accurate record. But if anyone has an abandoned car, that's also one of the jobs I do. As far as in the code enforcement, it's not just the litter, it's weeds, it's building codes, it's abandoned cars, it's anything that might be a possible code violation can come through my office. I can address probably those signs you tomorrow if I pick them up in my area. Out of there if they're abandoned. Just to kind of update on a couple property areas that some of the council had asked me to look into. 2919 Glen, which I know is on the demo list, has been cut.
Thank you.
I was able to secure a crew from community service. They've been able to, when they have the resources, we've been able to kind of put them to work again and cut some of those problem areas. So they took care of that one. So when it's demoed, it should be all completed. 2610 Cherry was taken care of as well. I'm glad to say that 600 block of Webster, we were successful. We cited the owner there after he didn't come in compliance. He came to court, pled not guilty, was given additional time to kind of take care of the problem and decide how he wanted to plead. He did come into compliance. He was found guilty this morning, given a fine and given court costs. The property looks substantially better, removed a lot of tires and different junk off the property, so it's much better than what it was. And I think we're going to be able to. The other thing we have is now we've set a precedence on that particular property. There can be no argument that it's a wilderness or whatever. So I talked to Mrs. Stubbs about it. She's very, very happy about the progress there. Dealing with a problem in 1600 block of State, we got a porch cleaned off that was in need of some help there. Going to be focusing this week on the 600 block of Lawson. We've got some complaints here about the property alleys behind Lawson and the Ross Park area. Build up back there we're going to try to take care of. Just also wanted to announce we had a successful, I also work with the drug take-back program, and we had a great successful drug take-back at the Kroger's Hollywood Plaza. I just wanted to publicly thank Kroger and Mr. Terraman. Very, very helpful in allowing us to use that space in October. We'll be having another one. I'll be conducting one out at the prime time out on Lover's Lane from 10 to 2 tomorrow out there. So if you need any of the folks that need to get rid of any prescription drugs, to bring them out there and we'll collect them. Since we've had the box over the last 2 years, we pretty much on a monthly basis take out a box. The box stands about that high, and we'll take out about half of that box about once a month. So it's been very successful getting some of the prescription drugs off the streets that we used to see a lot of it. That would end up in our sewer and so. And I'll provide counsel also. I know there's been a lot of talk about what the litter officer does and things like that. I'll just refer to my year-end report from last year and one I'll provide next year. And I'll just provide a copy for each of the council members, and I have Frankie be able to give this to you so you know what I do and what I've been doing, and to help with whatever discussion we're doing. Any questions or concerns?
Yeah, I got one question for you, Sean.
Yes, sir.
When you said about picking stuff up, it came to my mind. Boss might be better off with this one. There were 2 batteries and a half a gallon antifreeze laying in the parking lot over on Lover's Lane in the church parking lot. So I picked it up, I threw it in the truck. If I pick them up, what do I do with them?
I would suggest maybe check with JB Green Team. That those are considered hazardous wastes. And they, although they only do something, once a year or something like that.
That's why I'm always reluctant to pick this stuff up, because now I'm stuck with it in my truck, I got 2 batteries and.
Right.
I can call it tomorrow for you.
Would you do that for me,
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, I think they still take some of them as hazardous stuff.
2 batteries and about a half a gallon of antifreeze.
Okay, yeah, I take care of it, call Marshall. Any other questions or concerns?
Yes. I have nothing.
To wrap up
Thank
at
you, thank
7.
you, Officer Scott.
You're welcome, sir.
Appreciate
Chairman
that.
Paul, thank you, Sean. Yes, the report shows the Gateway and Major Corridor citations in Central Business District. I would just point out that those are inspected weekly, and the results of those inspections are in this report. And so we continue to be vigilant in that area and put extra attention on our gateways and our downtown and major corridors. Alley cleanup, I know is ongoing, and I know that it's probably more of a budget discussion, but we're going to look at still trying to find if there's any way we can have some funding to do some alley repair. I think that would go a long way in some of the alleys, and improving the basic pavement would be important for me, just changing the character of those alleys. They tend to, if they deteriorate trash and pavement and everything. So we need to put some extra attention on that as well.
Any other questions on those 5 topics? We discussed, Chris brought up the demolition program, right?
Chris touched on that. But how many demolitions are we?
About 90.
90. Is there anything else we covered on this? Gateway, you just talked about the gateway, major corridor cleanup. We can move on to number 8 then, am I correct?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Baird, how are you tonight? Yourself? Fine, thank you. Yes, sir?
The city conducted a fall cleanup this year, which it has not done in several years. The results of that were, for the statistics associated, that was significantly less than the typical collection that we do in the spring every year. We collected 158 tons of waste throughout the course of that 6-week collection program. By way of comparison, a spring cleanup typically were well over 300 tons, or 360 tons. Just by way of comparison. In addition, we collected about 100 tons at our place, at our roll-off, in our container that residents had dropped off, where we didn't have to forget it. So that continues as well.
I have a question. What can we, that's down by the garage,
Right. Yes.
right on the Highway 7th and the alley there. Okay, what can we drop off in that?
Anything that would normally go out for bulk collection can go in that dumpster. Anything that normally you can't take,
Like bulk, you can't take?
prohibited, right? And I can give you that list again. When we send our press release out for the bulk collection, we include all the items that we cannot accept. Just to review, those are any type of construction materials, shingles, block, brick, lumber, drywall, for remodeling jobs. As you just mentioned, any kind of hazardous waste, cleaners, solvents, gasoline, oils, things like that, electronics, any kind of freon, anything containing freon, refrigerators, freezers, dehumidifiers, can't accept that. But anything that is in our normal bulk collection activities that we're out there picking up in the community can be deposited in that bulk. Street sweeping, we recently, within the last week or so, we had the department out in the overnight hours in the central business district. We did some street sweeping, and we had some guys on foot also doing sidewalks and storefronts and doorways. A lot of kids out there, but we are going to do that again, and that's probably going to be a little closer to Christmas parade time. We want to do that in preparation of the parade in downtown activities. We have received, the city does have a new street sweeper. And our old sweeper that we did refurbish is good. It's still an old sweeper, but it still has some, minor mechanical issues, but it's in good shape. Our challenge continues to be manpower and staffing to run it, and to be able to do all the functions with the competing demands. We are outside of the central business district. We're doing some sweeping, but we're doing it in conjunction with leaf collection, which is still ongoing. So after we're there, we're trying to sweep through the areas where we've been. So that will continue throughout, certainly throughout the summer. That's really about it, unless there's any questions.
I have one more talk to you after. You gonna be here, you stay for me, or?
I am.
Okay.
Madam Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to ask a very quick question. Bob, you mentioned that the fall pickup generated about 158 tons of waste. However, in the spring, it was over 300 tons. And I could kind of understand that, but normally in the spring, we do have some of our population leaving our community, which is the Fair System University students, and I know for a fact that they put out couches that they might have wherever and so forth and so on, but there's still a pretty big gap there. Can you attribute that to something else? Is it maybe because we have that central collection now at our M&R garage that people are utilizing at the 100 tons?
I think it probably can be attributed to a combination of a couple of things. There are certain aspects that can be attributed to a couple of things. One is that we have another means of disposal ongoing throughout the year, so that's catching some things. I think part of it also, as I mentioned at the beginning, the city has not conducted a fall collection for, I really don't know how long, but it's been a very long time. So the community, I think, has become acclimated or sort of adjusted to the spring cleanup, and less people were kind of wired for a fall cleanup because it's not, it hasn't been there. It was kind of brought back a little. I think primarily those two things. Maybe there just wasn't enough, I shouldn't say enough, but as much demand or need that there just was simply not that much material put out at that time. We rolled it out in October, November. That's really the right time. I mean, we could have maybe rolled it out a little sooner, but I don't know if that would have affected our tonnage much. I really think it's the fact that the community just is not acclimated for that fall collection because it wasn't there for so long, and I think that having other means of disposal.
Well, that's
two main factors.
That's what I'm getting at. If the alternative means of disposing, because we have a security area for them to bring it to at any time, it is working. We might look at maybe, once again, the fall collection, do away with it, maybe having another central location for them to bring bulk pickup. That's a security area too. But if you don't mind to continue to monitor that, because that's also to be a cost savings and convenience for our residents.
I think it's worthy of discussion, and I'd be more than happy to help discuss that or look into that. The other factors from that point of view, I think, while our costs associated with a collection in the case of the fall collection, our tipping fees were less because our tonnage was less. Our operating expenses were the same. It cost us more per ton for the fall collection than it did in the spring, so to speak, because our manpower is still out there, our trucks are still running, that fuel is still being consumed. And so our operational expenses were still there. Our disposal costs were less, but operationally. The other thing to add into the mix, I think, is, we conduct these on Saturdays. So, we have overtime involved, and depending on the time of the year and depending on other factors where we have holidays or different things happening, where we already have a short week and a double route on a day, and then we're adding another day, we're placing some additional stress on an already stretched department and group of people, so that's something to factor in.
Isn't it possible that in the spring you'll have less because you just took 150 tons out of the system?
That's possible, it remains to be seen, yeah, that's a possibility.
Well, yeah, I mean,
It's not offsets.
so I would expect in the spring to be even less than historically. Keep going, so much trash.
Yeah. Okay. With that being said, any other questions, Mr. Barrett? Okay, I make a motion, because we're running really late. I make a motion that we adjourn the safety committee meeting. Second. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. All right.